Good morning, everybody, and happy Thursday. Welcome to today's webinar. Before we begin, we're just going to wait for the remaining attendees to join. And I thought I'd take this opportunity just to talk quickly about Wave 2 that's coming up for Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. So if you haven't had a look already, please jump online and have a look at the Wave 2 documentation. It's really important to see what features are being retired or deprecated, what new features are coming up, and also what UI changes may impact your users. We've found over the last few years that many users get confused because Microsoft likes to move things around and change the UI slightly, and that can really cause issues. And then we see a bunch of help desk tickets come in, and we have to jump in and help these users that are struggling with things that should be really easy. So I do encourage you to jump online, go through the documentation. There's a PDF and a web version available. And if you have any questions, please get in touch and let us know. So welcome once again to the webinar, 1 hour to empower, getting started with Copilot and AI within the Power Platform. My name is Roshan Mehta, and I'm the CTO at Magnetism, and I'm joined by Fiona Tiernan, who is our functional consultant based down in Christchurch. Magnetism is a Microsoft partner. We specialize in business applications and digital and app innovation, and we live and breathe Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. We've been working with the technology for a very long time, since 2007, and those were the days when everything was on premise and the system was completely different. And we've seen it evolve quite a lot over the years to the point now where we've got a whole lot of extra capabilities and huge advances in AI. So it's a really exciting place to be. Our mission at Magnetism is to work as one with our clients to help them realize their potential through our smart use of technology. And right now, there's nothing much more smarter than AI. So you really need to be jumping on board and seeing what all the capabilities are. Our aim for today's webinar is to introduce the new AI capabilities within Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform, so you and your team can be more efficient in your day-to-day activities. But please note that we're just going to be scratching the surface. We're not going to be doing a deep dive, but if you do have particular topics you're interested in, please contact us and we'll see if we can kick off another webinar in the future. Having a look at today's agenda, I'm going to kick off by just talking about why you should be using AI within your business. And then I'm going to hand it over to Fiona, who's going to take you through AI in communications and sales. And then Fiona's going to pass it back to me, and I will take you through AI in customer service, followed by how you can build your own copilots using Copilot Studio. And then I'll touch briefly on Copilot extensions and how you can introduce more capabilities into Copilot. And then I'll show you 2 of Magnetism's brand new AI products. I'm not going to say too much about it just yet. And finally, we'll touch on security and licensing, and then we'll jump into questions. I'm guessing most of you on this call have used generative AI at some point for your own individual tasks, but why should businesses be incorporating AI? Well, you can resolve issues and answer questions faster and more efficiently, provided your AI solution has accurate and up-to-date information. You can automate repetitive and mundane tasks so your team can focus on more important things. Unlike humans, AIs don't get tired, they don't get distracted. They can process infinitely more information and consistently follow rules to analyze data and make decisions. But it's really important to note that it doesn't mean that the AI always makes good decisions. The output of the AI depends heavily on how well you train it and the quality of the data that you give it. Finally, AIs are available all the time and aren't restricted to business hours, so your customers can be well supported at all hours of the day. Before I hand it over to Fiona, I just want to touch on some of the capabilities for Copilot in Microsoft 365. So Copilot in Microsoft 365 is integrated into all of your favorite Microsoft 365 apps, but it does require additional licensing. For example, in Microsoft Word, you can quickly create documents and then edit them using natural language prompts. In Excel, you can perform data analysis and forecasting using the data in your spreadsheets, simply by telling Copilot what to do. In PowerPoint, you can use Copilot to generate presentations for you, which then you can edit using the designer view. In Teams, you can ask Copilot to summarize a meeting for you if you've joined late. It can also recap conversations and automatically generate meeting minutes and action items so that people are clear on what the next steps are. And in Outlook, Copilot can quickly summarize an email thread if someone copies you in to deal with an escalation. It can suggest items from, action items from an email, and it can also generate replies and create follow-up meetings for you automatically. These are just some of the capabilities that are available, and it's only going to get better. So now I'm going to hand it over to Fiona, who's going to take you through AI and communications and sales.
Thanks, Roshan. Hello, everyone. I'm Fiona, and today I'll be covering off some of the AI capabilities within the Customer Insights journeys, sales, and Customer Insights data applications. Let's start with communications within Customer Insights journeys. This is the marketing side of the dynamic suite of applications, enabling you to reach customers with customized campaigns. And these are made up of three main elements. The what are you sending? This is your content, which could be an email or a text message. The who are you targeting? This is the use of what are called segments in the system. And the how, which are the journeys that are used to push out those communications. And there are some powerful AI features available that help facilitate the creation of these elements using AI-assisted themes and natural language prompts. For example, I'm currently in the Customer Insights Journeys application, and I'm starting to, I want to start building out a new marketing email. So here I am in my marketing email. When creating an email, we have a content ideas option, which, as the name suggests, will help us to come up with some ideas for what to include in the body of the email. You'll see we can add some additional key points to describe what the content is about, which will help tailor the suggestions and also select the tone of voice that we're wanting to use. We're then given some options to pick from to help draft our content. This is going to save marketers time, particularly helpful for days when your brain might just need a kickstart, maybe it's Monday, to get those creative ideas flowing. And the system's going to generate ideas to help us along. You'll see that it's generated some ideas for us here. Once we've found an option that we like, we can then add this to my draft, and this is going to insert it wherever we were to select it into the email. And then we can go ahead and make further changes or edits as required. When choosing images as well, if I just pull in an image here, when we're choosing an image, AI can also help suggest images that may be appropriate to use, source from the files that you've got stored in your asset library, available for you to select and then add to your email. So it will kind of try and predict images that you might want to include in your email, depending on the topic and some of the text that you've got in there. Copilot can also be used to help build out our segments and journeys using everyday language. For example, here I'm in the segments area, which is where we pull together and define who is going to be in our segment. Think of a segment as your kind of like your distribution list, if you like, the collection of contacts or leads who we want to receive our marketing material. Now, usually if you're creating a segment from scratch, I just show you without using Copilot, you'd land on a blank page without this error message, but you'd then have to go about building out what is referred to as the query. Basically the set of rules or criteria the contact or lead records need to meet in order to be included in the segment list. So you'll see there's nothing here for us. We're literally having to create it from scratch. And this can be quite time consuming depending on the complexity of your segment, and to be honest, can also be a bit daunting for new users who aren't as familiar with the application yet and how it works. So if I go back and create a new one again, but this time using Copilot, you'll see in this query assist here, we can actually use natural language to tell the system who we're wanting to include in our segment, and it's then going to create that query structure for us. We're given some options out of the box, or maybe we want to create a bespoke segment based on our own criteria. You can do that as well. I'm going to choose the option contacts who opened an email. So the system's recognized that we need the email opened trigger and has pulled that in. And now we can click use. And now we have that criteria or our query criteria added in for us. And we just then need to select the email that we're referring to finish linking it up. And then we would hit save. And once we've built out the rest of the query as we needed to, we could also use Query Assist for that. We'd then click Ready to Use, and the system would pull those people that meet this criteria, those contacts or leads, into our segment ready for us to use in our journey. And there's similar behavior to help with our journey creation as well. So again, we can describe using Query Assist what we're wanting to achieve with the journey branching in everyday words, or we're also given some examples that we can run with as well. So let's choose this event registration option. A contact registers for a marketing event. We want the system to send them a reminder email if they don't check in for the event. Quite a common scenario that you might want to build into your journey. We need to find the trigger here, which is contact marketing event check-in. And then we also need to choose the event that we're relating it to. And then we can then click submit. And then here we can review that it's understood correctly what we're wanting to achieve. And we're also given a preview of what the journey will look like on the right-hand side of the Copilot window. We can then click Create Journey. And the various parts of the journey are added in for us automatically. We can see our starting trigger, a marketing event registration has been created, and then if the contact fails to check in for the event, we can send them a reminder email. So here we would click into this and add the email that we want them to be sent, just to link that all up nicely. To configure the journey start, the user will just have the options to choose, such as the frequency, choosing if they want to maybe exclude a specific segment, or scheduling when to start the journey as well. But other than that, we're pretty much ready to go. And this has just saved quite a lot of time because we haven't had to go about building this out from scratch. I will say, in my experience at the moment, Query Assist and Copilot within Customer Insights journeys, helping build out those segments and journeys, is more helpful and tends to understand more basic queries and journey branching logic. But hopefully, as more people start interacting with the product, we'll see some improvement made in this area and see Copilot be able to interpret more unique and complex scenarios when we're building these out. This can still be really helpful in current state, though, as I've demonstrated for users who may be newer to using Customer Insights journeys and just need a bit of a helping hand with where to start when creating the assets needed for the email automation. Moving on to AI and Sales Copilot in Dynamics 365 Sales. These aim to enhance the productivity and effectiveness of sales users by offering quick action prompts and AI-powered insights to help with daily tasks. So sales users can interact with Copilot using natural language or predefined prompts as well, to retrieve the information that they need quickly and easily, and provide summaries of their opportunity and lead records, meaning less time spent hunting around for information before maybe that all-important customer call. You just need to find some details quite quickly. The key capabilities are record summarization and catch-up, meeting preparation, email assistance, and news updates, which I'll briefly walk through. So as you can see, first up, I'm in the Sales Hub application, and we have our Copilot landing page where we can ask questions about the data in the application, and we're also given some predefined prompts as well. So I'm a busy sales user, often with back-to-back calls. I'd like an update across my customers' account records maybe, or I'd like to see a quick view of my pipeline. We can also ask a question about a specific account without actually having to be on the account record by just adding a / So when is my next appointment with Fourth Coffee customer? And the system will generate, we'll be able to see our next appointment is either on X date, or if we have 0 appointments scheduled, that will come up as well. So I can see I've got an appointment with Fourth Coffee on the 31st of July. We've also got record summarization. So here I am in a customer record that I'm the sales manager for Fourth Coffee. We've got the Copilot display panel on the right-hand side, and same as on the main page we were just on before, we can either type in a question or use the same prompts to gain further information without having to click through the detail on the record itself, particularly if your forms have been configured to have a lot of separate tabs. I've not got many tabs on here, but if you've got a lot of tabs, you maybe aren't sure where the exact information is that you're looking for, where that's located. So that can be quite helpful. For example, if I click on get info and then summarize account, the system's going to provide us with a brief summary of the Fourth Coffee account record. And this ability to summarize records is available not just across account records, but opportunity and lead records as well. Now this is generated, I can see the annual revenue, I can see the number of employees, the location of my customer, as well as other key information. Copilot actually generates the summary here from predefined fields. So it's quite a good idea to decide together with your team what field information you're most interested in, what's most relevant to your business, and then work with your system admin to configure the summarization to be based on, I think it's the top 10 fields that you can choose. And then Copilot will use those fields to generate and include that in your summary. We've got the option to copy this information to paste it into somewhere of our choosing, or also this option here, copy to an email. And this can be quite helpful. This is going to copy it to an email record in CRM and pull across that key information. You can see it included here for us to easily send through from directly within CRM itself. And now that we're in this email record, you'll also see on the right-hand side, the email assistance option appears. So Copilot can help us to compose our email as well if needed. We can pop in a prompt of what we're trying to outline in the email using everyday language, and the system will then generate a draft that we can choose to use. So let's pop in, write an intro to my email outlining that I need my colleague to take this customer call because I've now got a conflict, something's come up. It's going to scan that for me, write a draft for me, and then we can review what it's come up with. Oh, I'm not going to complete that right now. We can review what it's come up with, and if we're happy with the suggestion, we can click add to email, and we can then edit further as needed before sending. So that's pop that in here. We might just need to edit the formatting a little bit to make it look a bit nicer. There we go. So yeah, once I've tidied up the email and I'm happy with it, I would send it to my colleague. So moving back to the account record, we've also got the option to review recent changes without having to manually go digging through the audit history. What's changed with my account? Copilot summarizes any recent changes that were made to your lead, opportunity, or account records, generating the list from the records audit history. At the moment, I've just got this set on changes to the owner field, but again, within your internal team, you can agree on the top fields that are most relevant for you that you would want to see, and Copilot will base the summary of changes on these fields first and foremost. We also have the option to get the latest news for the account. This is going to provide us with a list of the latest news articles that mention the keywords in the account name. So you can easily stay up to date with the latest happenings, particularly before an important sync up call with the customer. This can be quite handy if you don't have time to go trawling through and looking at Google first. That's just going to give us some prompts there. And also highlights. We can click on the highlights here in the records timeline, which will generate highlights of past activity once there's enough information there on the record. Some other AI capabilities within sales that I think are worth mentioning, which are really powerful, include predictive lead and opportunity scoring. Unfortunately, I can't showcase these at the moment, as you need 40 qualified and 40 disqualified leads or opportunities available over the past 2 years to enable this feature. But this helps sellers to prioritize both leads based on their predicted likelihood to convert, and also which opportunities are on track and which ones might need some attention. And there's also relationship insights as well. So AI evaluates communication patterns and interaction history across your customer records to assess the health of customer relationships, offering insights into which relationships possibly need some attention. And lastly, before I hand back, we have customer insights data. So customer insights data is a customer data platform that's part of the Dynamics umbrella, and is the other part, if you like, to the customer insights offering, along with customer insights journeys, which we covered. It enables organizations to unify their customer data from various different sources, including CRM, ERP, social media, websites, and other databases as well, to create a comprehensive profile of the customer. So rather than relying only on the information that you have stored on that customer in your CRM, this enables you to personalize your marketing campaigns in customer insights journeys even further, as you've got that 360 view of each customer, merging information about them from the different touch points that you're using. As with others I've demonstrated, there are AI capabilities within this platform using AI and machine learning to predict some of your data. There's a lot to showcase in here, so I've just highlighted some of the main functionality around prediction. But if you are interested in knowing more about this side of customer insights, please reach out and we can go into more depth for you, depending on what you're interested in. And we're given some model options, the prediction model options to help us with those predictions. So these include the customer lifetime value. This predicts the potential revenue of a customer throughout the entire interaction with the business. The product recommendation, this suggests sets of predictive product recommendations based on purchase behavior and customers that might have similar purchase patterns. And then subscription churn, this predicts if a customer is at risk for no longer using your company's subscription products or services, whereas the transactional churn predicts if an individual customer might no longer purchase your products or services in a certain time frame. And then lastly, we've got sentiment analysis, which analyzes the sentiment of customer feedback and identifies business aspects that are frequently mentioned. Another upcoming feature as well is that you can then actually create a segment based on those prediction results that you can then use within your campaigns and customer insights journeys. So really linking all of that nicely together. Hopefully this has given you some insight into the world of AI within customer insights and sales applications. I'll hand back now to Roshan to take us through AI capabilities in customer service.
Cool. Thanks, Fiona. It's great to see that there's some cool features there, especially in the area of building segments. I know for a fact that when I've given it a go myself, I've struggled just to get going. So if the AI can help me with the building blocks, I can see this being a really nice feature for people who are just learning with customer insights journeys. Let's now have a look at some of the AI capabilities within Dynamics 365 customer service. These features are all included with the customer service enterprise license. What I'm going to show you is how you can quickly get up to speed with customer service cases through Copilot. Ask Copilot to help you write emails, just as we saw in Fiona's demo with sales, and also how Copilot can help assist a customer service agent with a chat that has been transferred from a chatbot. So here I am now in the Dynamics 365 customer service workspace. And what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to open up this case called a mineral buildup and water supply. So the scenario is that our customer Claudia is having issues with her coffee machine, and a customer service agent has been helping her out, but that particular agent has now gone on annual leave and they've assigned the case to me along with many other cases. And now it's up to me to help Claudia resolve her issue. So as we saw on the sales module, Copilot has this summary tab, summary section, sorry, on the case form. And as somebody who's taking over this case, it's going to take me a long, long time to go through all of the activities that have happened on this particular case, also read the details and get up to speed with the customer. So for one case, that could take me between 5 and 10 minutes, but my colleague who's gone on leave has actually assigned me quite a few cases. So I could be spending the most part of a day just reading information to get up to speed. And that's a lot of information that I'd have to hold in my head. So thankfully, Copilot can summarize that information for me through one click. And this is going to use information from the title of the case, the customer, the subject, the priority, the case type, and the description, as well as the information in the timeline to give me a one-paragraph summary of everything that's happened with this case. So we can see here that Claudia has reported issues with her Smart Brew 3000. It also includes the product. The issue appears to be with inconsistent water flow due to mineral buildup. And we can see that Enrico, my colleague who has conveniently gone on leave, had a call with them offering assistance, but there's some further work to be done to have another call to address the issue. So that's a really nice way for me to save time by not having to do a whole lot of reading. Copilot has my back and can summarize that information nicely for me. Similar again to what we saw in Fiona's demo, we have on the timeline the highlight section, and this is specifically going through the activities that are on the timeline. and summarizing that information for me. So one key thing to note is that this is not specifically a feature for sales or customer service. This works anywhere you have the timeline. So if it's on an account or an opportunity or any other tables that you're using as part of your Dynamics implementation, you can make use of the highlights feature. Next, if we cast our eye to the right-hand side of the page where we have the Copilot pane, this is where Copilot really shines. And we can see here that there's an auto prompt automatically generated by Copilot, so I haven't had to go in and type anything. It's basically using information from the case, just as we saw with the case summary and the timeline highlights. And it's basically providing me with a recommendation or a recommended prompt that I can click to get some more information, because me as the agent, Enrico's left, I have no idea how to resolve this issue, but Copilot once again is to the rescue here. So I can click on this prompt that says how to resolve the issue of inconsistent water flow, and Copilot's going to go away and have a look at all of the configured knowledge sources as part of our customer service setup. So in this case, it's gone away and it's found a knowledge base article, and it's pulled away information that's relevant to resolving this case. So if we have a look at some of the options that are available as part of the response, we have these little citations here that you can click on, and it actually tells you where it's got this information from. So in this particular case, it's gone and found a knowledge base article, which I can click and I can read to get more information. So one thing to note about AI is that it's not always correct. So you do have to do a little bit of work just to make sure that what it's providing you is right. But this here, as I can see, is a pretty good response. And I can check that by going into the knowledge base article. And if there's anything else that's really relevant, I can include that in my investigation. I can edit the response. So this kind of ties on to what I was just talking about earlier, where I can read this knowledge base article. Perhaps I could go online and do some more research, and I can edit the content, and then I can copy that and use that information somewhere. Perhaps I want to send the customer an email, or I want to send a meeting request and include this information in there as well. I can also translate the response into another language if I like. So if Claudia wanted to communicate in Italian, I can pick from a list of languages and choose Italian, and Copilot does that in real time. And I can switch back to the original language in a single click. I can also give Copilot feedback. So it's really important that the AI continues to learn. So if the AI gives you a good response, hit the thumbs up button, or if it's a response that wasn't particularly helpful, hit the thumbs down button so the AI can learn and get better over time. And then finally, we have the check sources button. Now, if you had multiple sources that came back as part of this response, perhaps multiple knowledge base articles or external websites, public-facing websites, you would see all of those listed here, which makes it really handy rather than clicking on these citations to go and read more information. Now, as I'm resolving this issue, I may want to ask Copilot some more information to really be proactive in my investigation with the customer. Now, one thing that a lot of our customers don't actually know, putting my customer service agent hat on, is they don't know that their coffee machines can actually be configured to run at a certain time. So you could configure your coffee machine to turn on at 7 a.m. so that when you get out of bed, there's a fresh cup of coffee ready for you to drink. So I'm going to ask Copilot a question this time rather than using a auto prompt. How do I schedule the coffee machine to run at a certain time? And again, it's going to go away and look at the configured knowledge sources. And in this case, it's another knowledge base article, but it could also be an external website. So we'll just wait for the response to come back from Copilot. And we can see here that to schedule the Smart Brew 3000, follow these steps. And just like other generative AI applications such as ChatGPT, you can ask follow-up questions so it understands the context, but you don't have to provide the same information that you had provided earlier. So now I want to say, well, I want to send this information to the customer in an email. So I want to say, please summarize that into 3 steps and format it into a friendly style email, because 6 steps is just too many things for the customer to read. So now it's going to use the context from the previous response and the new prompt that I've given it, and it's going to generate a 3-step instruction on how to schedule the coffee machine, and it's going to format that into an email. So then now I can copy paste that and send an email to Claudia, the customer. Now, that's one way to create an email by asking Copilot to specifically generate it, or I can use the out-of-the-box features with Copilot email. So from the timeline, I'm going to click on the plus button and I'm going to select email. And what you'll notice here is that the Copilot pane has switched from the Ask a Question tab to the Write an Email tab. And what it's got down below is, again, some auto prompts. So I can ask Copilot to resolve the customer's problem, empathize with feedback, suggest a call. And this is really, really useful for people that particularly aren't good at writing emails. It's often difficult. Sometimes you're sitting there just wondering, how can I address the customer? If they're angry, you really want to make sure that you're providing a good service. So this is where AI can use its natural language capabilities to help you write a nicely formatted email to get the customer back on your side, especially if they're frustrated. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select resolve the customer's problem. And just like we saw with the auto prompt on the case, it's going to use the information from our knowledge articles, and it's going to this time generate an email. But the reason why this one is better than what we saw before is that it's actually including information about the customer and about the agent, i.e. myself, in the email rather than placeholders. So we can see here it's saying, I hope this email finds you well. I understand you're experiencing reduced pressure. Our citation is linking to some of our knowledge sources, and we've got some several response options at the bottom. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you what it looks like if we ask Copilot to generate an email for us rather than selecting from the auto prompts. So in this example, I've asked it to write a professionally formatted email, firstly apologizing about the issue with the coffee machine, and then asking the customer for availability, and then offer 5 free coffee pods. So now Copilot's going to use that information, and it's going to generate an email just as we saw with the auto prompt. It's addressing the customer, and we can see here, I would like to offer you 5 free coffee pods to enjoy with your smart brew. So it's taken that information that I've provided it, and it's written a nicely formatted response. So if we have a look at the response options, they are similar to what we had seen earlier when we were working on the case. The only difference here is that we can click on copy, and this has actually copied the email from the Copilot pane into the rich text editor email body. And we can do additional formatting here if we want to bold the important parts. This is just your out-of-the-box functionality. We can edit the response if we want. So if we wanted to make changes, we could do it in the Copilot pane, or you could do it just directly in the email body itself. You can adjust the length of the email. So let's say we wanted to make it a little bit shorter, and let's try casual. We can update that, and Copilot's going to use that information and change the whole tone of the email so we can see that it's much shorter. And it just says, hi, I see you're having issues. Enjoy 5. It's not very formal like it was before. And we can also translate the response. Once again, if we wanted to communicate with Claudia in Italian, we can do so. So very similar features to what we saw in the case. but tailored more towards email. Now, these features that we saw in the Copilot pane are also available directly within the rich text editor on the form by clicking on Draft with Copilot. The UI is slightly different, but gives you most of the same options. So again, I can say resolve the customer's problem, and instead of generating it on the Copilot pane, it's just going to pop it straight into the email body. And I can do similar things to what we saw before. I can keep it if I'm happy with the response. I can start over. I can discard it entirely if I wanted to write it manually. Not sure why you'd want to do that, but that's an option. And again, I can adjust the tone and the length and do the translation. Next, we're going to have a look at Copilot in chat. So public chatbots are becoming more and more popular these days and are designed to handle basic questions before passing on more complex issues to a human agent. Not many customers that I've seen are actually using it, but I'm seeing a lot of chatbots in the services that I use when I'm buying things online and those sorts of things. So with the addition of generative AI and copilots, I can only imagine in the next year or so that it's going to become more and more popular. So what I've got here is a demo chat. So pretend this is a a company website, and I'm the customer, and I've told this chatbot that I'm having issues with water flow. Actually, what's happened is the chatbot's asked me some basic questions, and I've said, yeah, I'm having product issues with my smart brew. It's about water flow, and the chatbot's done as much as it can before it's passed it on to a human agent. So now the customer's actually said, well, I'm having issues with water flow. If I jump into the customer service workspace, here I am representing the agent, and we've got this chat window on the left-hand side, which is out of the box with the customer service app. And we can see the chat from the perspective of the agent. So just like we saw in the other examples, Copilot can read the information from the chat window, and it's saying, well, how to resolve water flow with your Smart Brew 1000. So another example of where auto prompts come into play. So I can click on this once again, and it's going to go away and look at our knowledge articles. So very consistent as it works through, the other parts that we looked at, like the cases and the emails. And what I can do here is I can send this straight to the customer. So I don't really have to type anything. I didn't have to copy paste. I can just send that to the customer, and it's added it directly into the chat. Now, one other feature that is available in out of the box with the customer service app is the sentiment analysis. So we can see here that it's got a smiley face and it says that it's positive. But as the conversation continues, if the customer said that they were frustrated, you would see this change to negative. Now, this is not a Copilot feature, but it's just to highlight some other AI capabilities within the application. The other thing that I can do is when the chat is transferred to an agent from the chatbot, I might want to get a summary of the conversation. So I can click on this straight from the communication panel, and Copilot has summarized what's happened in the chat. So again, I can get up to speed very, very quickly. And like we saw in the other examples, I can't reiterate this enough, is that it's really important to give Copilot feedback as you're using it. The technology is still quite new, so please do thumbs up or thumbs down the responses so it can get better. Next, we're going to have a look at building your own Copilot. And this is done through what's called Copilot Studio. This was previously called Power Virtual Agents, and what that technology let you do was build chatbots with no code or low code and publish them to places like your company website, social media accounts, and also things like Microsoft Teams. It's now been rebranded and offers many more features, particularly around generative AI. One thing to note is that Copilot Studio requires an additional license, which is per tenant or per organization. So I'm going to switch over to Copilot Studio, and I'm going to show you an example of how easy it is to build a Copilot from scratch. So I'm going to click on New Copilot. And this Copilot that we're going to build is going to answer questions about New Zealand. So I'm going to call my Copilot Tui, and the description answers questions about New Zealand and events that are happening in Auckland. I'm going to configure two knowledge sources here. So we can see here that there's several options you can pick, such as SharePoint, OneDrive. You can upload files, you can connect it to Dynamics 365, but I'm going to choose public website, and I'm going to pick newzealand.com and aucklandnz.com/events. I'm going to add that, and I'm going to click on create. So what's going to happen is this is going to automatically set up a Copilot chatbot for me. And previously, what I had to do on Power Virtual Agents was I had to decide each step of the conversation and tell Power Virtual Agents what to do. But now it's going to automatically create that for you. You can make edits if you like, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it as it is and show you what's available right out of the box. So we can see here that it's got our name, it knows our sources, and it's created some basic topics. So this is things like greetings and saying goodbye. So we can see here on the right-hand side, hello, I'm Tui, a virtual assistant. Now I didn't have to configure any of that. It's done it just by itself. So I'm going to ask it a question. I'm going to say, what are the top 3 things to do in Queenstown at this time of year? So there's a couple of things to note there. One, it's going to have a look at our data source, and 2, I haven't said in winter, I said at this time of year, so it's using its smarts to go and figure out what are the top things to do in winter. So we can see that it's saying to go skydiving, take in the epic views of the Southern Alps, and we can see here that if I click on these links, it's going to take me straight to the website with this title, Top 10 Things to Do in Queenstown, and it's picked a few of those things in its response, which I think is really cool. So I didn't have to configure anything. It's automatically built this Copilot, as we can see in the middle. All these things are automatically there. I haven't had to do much at all. So now I'm going to ask it a question about events in Auckland. What are some upcoming events happening in Auckland? And it's going to use our second data source and tell us that the Listen In Festival is happening. And I can say, where is the Listen In Festival going to be held? And it should go away and find that information. So it's saying it's returning to Auckland at the same venue as 2023. So it hasn't actually told me exactly where it is, but I have the link here to go and click and find out more information. So just a really quick example of how fast you can get up to speed by creating a new Copilot. And remember that you can, once you're happy with how it's all working and how it all looks, you can publish it to a location of your choice, such as your company website, mobile apps, and messaging platforms like Microsoft Teams and Facebook. If you wanted to further extend your Copilot, you can do that through what are called Copilot plugins. So in my example that we just saw, we configured a Copilot with 2 data sources, and all it's doing is bringing back information to you. It can't actually perform any actions. But if you wanted to build a Copilot that could query one of your own systems, maybe it's not a public system, but it has an API, you could create a Copilot plugin that talks to your other system to retrieve information. But what it could also do is create, update, and delete records if your API has those capabilities. So now what we're doing is we're taking the Copilot to a whole new level where it's not just giving you information, it's able to perform actions on your behalf, not just summarize the data. So it's almost like having a real life assistant that you can delegate tasks to. And all of this is happening with natural language capabilities, as we have seen in all of the previous examples. So I just wanted to quickly touch on Copilot extensions and what's possible. We're not going to show any demos because it does require some custom development work. Now, all these features look great and can help you and your team be more productive every day, but how good is the Copilot at securing your data? Copilot is built on the Microsoft Azure OpenAI service, which runs entirely from within the Microsoft cloud. It does not use any of OpenAI's publicly available services, so your data stays within the Microsoft 365 boundary, and it's never shared with any third parties unless you actually grant it permission specifically. Your data is encrypted at rest and in transit between Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform and Azure OpenAI. So it's not easy for hackers to just go out and sniff that information and intercept it and do malicious things with your data. Data provided to Copilot depends entirely on the access of the person that's using Copilot at the time. So for example, me as the customer service agent, if I only have access to my cases, then I can only use Copilot on my cases. I can't suddenly start using Copilot on Fiona's cases or another colleague's cases. So this is why it's really important to make sure that your security structure within your Dynamics environment is sound. Now note that this is how it's intended to work, but you should always perform rigorous testing to ensure that your sensitive data is protected. Before we wrap up today's webinar, I do want to introduce you to Magnetism AI, which includes two generative AI products, our System Knowledge Assistant and the Power Guide Assistant. Its sister product is the Power Guide Assistant. So this is your Dynamics 365 and Power Platform expert. You can ask it questions about the Power Platform or Dynamics 365, and it will use its comprehensive knowledge base to tell you what you need to know. So now that reduces your time having to go through Google and click through multiple articles or read through mountains of documentation on Microsoft Learn. And the best part about this whole thing is that you can interact with the Power Guide Assistant directly from Microsoft Teams. And here's an example in Microsoft Teams. We've got the chat window open. So I'm going to ask it a question about Copilot security. How secure is my data when it's used by Copilot in customer service? And this is going to look through the documentation, Microsoft's documentation, and it's going to provide us with a pretty comprehensive answer. So we'll just wait for this to kick in. We can see Power Assist is responding. It's being nice and friendly to us before it goes away and finds that information. So let's just give that a couple of seconds. There we go. So we can see here, data control, you have full control over your data. Microsoft does not share it with third parties unless you grant permission. We talked about access control. So this is great. This is a great example of how it's able to quickly go away and find the information, format it nicely for you, also give you some references that you can click and read more. You can perform a Google search, and if you really need to, you can ask us at the Magnetism Help Desk for more information. I'm going to just run through one more example very quickly. How do you embed a Power BI report into a Dynamics 365 dashboard? And Power Assist, we can see, is responding once again. It's going to go away and find that information for us, and again, provide us with an accurate answer. So we can see here, sign into the Power Platform Admin Center. We've got this toggle. We can go into our dashboards. So yeah, it's given us a pretty comprehensive response. And once again, I can click on the references to learn more. So that was just a really quick introduction to our two AI products. If you want to learn more, please do get in touch. Finally, I wanted to touch very quickly on licensing. So apart from sales, Copilot is included with the Dynamics 365 App Enterprise license. There's no additional charge per person. The pricing that you see on screen here is actually US pricing. So very important just to make sure you convert that to New Zealand before having any conversations with your team. Copilot for Sales is not included with any Dynamics 365 sales subscription. With a Sales Enterprise license, a Copilot for Sales license is also required. And finally, with a Sales Premium license, a Copilot for Microsoft 365 license is required. And this is about $30 USD per user per month. So there's a lot of information around licensing online. It does change often, so please do talk to your licensing provider. But apart from that, I'm now going to move into the Q&A very quickly. And I'm just going to check the chat and see what questions we have here. There's a few questions. Okay, so firstly, can the Copilot create and update records in Dynamics 365? So as we saw in the demo earlier, a lot of it was purely conversational, so you're able to ask it questions. It did perform some actions like generating emails, but what we didn't see was creating an update record. So that capability, you'd probably be looking at Copilot plugins or adding Power Automate flows to further extend the Copilot. Is it possible to see what questions people are asking the Copilot and what the Copilot is responding with? So in Copilot Studio, so for custom Copilots, there's an analytics tab. And when you click on that, you can view the chat sessions so you basically give it a time period, and it allows you to download a CSV file where you can see what questions were asked and what responses Copilot came back with. So that's on the Analytics tab in Copilot Studio. Okay, next one is, you showed the case summary on the case form. Does it work on custom forms? So that's a good question, because what I was demonstrating was out of the box case form. So you can add the case summary to custom forms, but what that would require is a little bit of knowledge on how to customize the form, because you'd have to add a custom control and hook up some JavaScript. You don't have to write any code though, that stuff's already there. You just have to connect it all together. Is it possible to turn off the language translation? So in the customer service, in Dynamics, you can switch to the customer service admin app. And in there, there's a productivity area, and that's where you can control a whole lot of settings. So I'm pretty sure from there you can change the ability to turn on and off translation, but you can also, that's where you can do things like configure data sources, control whether or not Copilot works for questions and emails, and that sort of stuff. So there's a whole comprehensive list of all these different settings that you can have full control over. Okay, so we're very close to time, so I'll take one more. Is it possible to measure Copilot usage? So similar to that question before about whether or not you can see how the Copilot's being used, there's a Power BI report in that analytics tab. So it shows you the total number of sessions, the engagement rate, so how the Copilot's being used and whether or not people are like quitting the chat, which is called an abandonment. And if you turn it on, you can also get like a customer satisfaction score as well. Cool. So once again, I'd just like to thank everybody for joining today's webinar. It's been great to have you with us. If you do, there are more questions on the chat, so we'll do our best to reach out to you and answer as many as we can. But if you do think of any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And if you have any suggestions on future webinars that you would like us to cover, please do get in touch. So thank you once again, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.